"You'll find more than wages here," the rancher said, as she came asking for work. Emily had always imagined the city as her home. The endless streets, bright lights, and constant hum of people made her feel alive. But after years of living in cramped apartments, working jobs that drained her spirit, and feeling invisible in the chaos, Emily realized she needed something different. She needed space, something real, something she could touch and feel. That's how she found herself driving along dusty roads that led to a small town tucked away between rolling hills and wide-open fields. Her old car rattled over potholes, and the radio had long given up playing music, leaving only the sound of the engine and the wind whistling through the open window. The town was small, the kind of place where everyone seemed to know everyone else. A single main street lined with a few shops, a diner with neon lights buzzing faintly in the midday sun, and a post office that smelled faintly of paper and dust. Emily pulled her car to a stop near the edge of town and stepped out, stretching her legs. The air smelled different here, clean, earthy, and slightly sweet with the scent of grass and cattle. She breathed deeply, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease for the first time in years. Emily had always been independent. She had learned to fend for herself after losing her parents at a young age. City life had made her tough in some ways, but it had also left her feeling small and disconnected. She wasn't looking for glamour or excitement anymore. She was looking for work, for purpose, and for a place where she could belong, even if she had to start from the bottom. Her destination was a ranch on the outskirts of town. It was a large property with rolling fields, weathered barns, and fences stretching as far as she could see. A dirt driveway led to the main house, and as she drove closer, she noticed the ranch hands moving efficiently among the livestock, carrying feed, checking fences, and guiding cattle. The sun was beginning its slow descent, casting long golden shadows across the land. Emily parked near the barn and took a deep breath before walking toward the main house. The steps creaked under her boots as she approached the front porch, and she paused, gathering the courage to knock on the door. She wasn't used to asking for help. Asking for work was new, almost foreign to her, but she reminded herself why she had come. She needed this. She wanted more than just money. She wanted an opportunity to prove she could handle herself in a world so different from the city. The door opened before she could knock. A man stood there, tall and solidly built, with broad shoulders and a face weathered by the sun and wind. His hair was streaked with gray, and his eyes were sharp, scanning her quickly but not unkindly. He wore work clothes, jeans, a faded shirt, and boots caked with dirt. There was a calm authority in the way he stood, as if he belonged to this land in a way Emily could not yet understand. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice steady and welcoming, though with a hint of curiosity. Emily swallowed her nerves. "Yes, I'm looking for work," she said. Her voice was firm, though a little unsure. "I can do anything, feeding animals, chores, cleaning, anything you need." He studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said. "I'm Tom." The house was modest but warm, with wooden floors, a large kitchen table, and shelves filled with books, photographs, and small trinkets from a life lived close to the land. It felt different from the apartment she had known, different from the city, and it seemed to embrace anyone willing to work hard. Tom led her to a chair and gestured for her to sit. "So you want to work on the ranch?" he said. "It's not easy work. Long days, early mornings, and there's always something that needs fixing or feeding. Are you ready for that?" Emily nodded. "I am. I'm ready to work hard." Tom's eyes softened slightly. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Good. You'll find more than wages here," he said, his tone almost like a statement rather than a question. Emily tilted her head, curious, and asked, "What do you mean?" "Come tomorrow and you'll see." Emily didn't press him further. She had a feeling she would understand soon enough. She thanked him, and as she left the house, she felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something entirely new. That night, Emily stayed in a small inn in town. The room was simple: a bed, a chair, and a window that overlooked the fields beyond. The sounds of the countryside, the distant lowing of cows, the rustle of trees in the wind, and the occasional call of an owl. Her mind replayed the events of the day. Meeting Tom had been intimidating, but something about him made her believe that this place could be more than just a job. The next morning, Emily woke before sunrise. She dressed in practical clothes, jeans, a plain shirt, and sturdy boots, and ate a quick breakfast of eggs and toast at the diner in town. The waitress, a friendly woman named Karen, asked where she was headed. When Emily explained, Karen's eyes lit up. "You're going to work on Tom's ranch? Oh, you're in for a real experience," Karen said, smiling. He runs a tight ship, but he's fair. If you're willing to learn, you'll find it's more than just work, it's a way of life." Emily thanked her, feeling a surge of anticipation. She had always wanted to be part of something bigger, something real, and maybe this was it. When she arrived at the ranch, the morning sun painted the fields in shades of gold and green. Tom was already outside, overseeing the hands as they fed the livestock.
He waved her over and she walked toward him, trying not to appear nervous.
"Morning, Emily," he said. "Ready for your first day?" "Yes, sir," she replied, though she felt the butterflies in her stomach. Tom handed her a pair of gloves and pointed toward the barns. "Basic with the morning feed. Pay attention and ask questions if you need to. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty." Emily nodded, and as she approached the barn, she felt a rush of excitement. This was real work, honest work, and it demanded her full attention. She lifted hay bales, fed the animals, and tried to keep up with the faster hands, her muscles aching, but her spirit growing stronger with each passing hour. By mid-morning, Tom came over to check on her. "You're doing fine," he said, giving her a rare smile. "Remember, this is about more than just doing chores. It's about learning to understand the land, the animals, and yourself." "I think I understand," she said, though she wasn't entirely sure what he meant. Tom nodded. "You'll see." Throughout the day, Emily learned the rhythm of the ranch, the way cattle moved, the sound of horses' hooves, the subtle signs that told an experienced hand when something was wrong. She stumbled at times, dropping a bucket or misplacing a tool, but the ranch hands were patient, showing her the right way and encouraging her. By the time the sun began to set, Emily was exhausted. Her hands were sore, and her jeans were stained with dirt and hay. But she felt a sense of accomplishment that she hadn't felt in years. Tom called everyone together for a quick check-in before dinner. "Good work today," he said, looking at Emily and the others. "It's not easy, but if you stick with it, you'll find that the ranch gives more than it takes. Some lessons you won't find anywhere else." Emily felt a small thrill at his words. She had come here for work, yes, but maybe she had found something else too, a place where she could grow, learn, and prove herself. That night, as she sat on the porch of the small inn, watching the stars emerge over the darkened fields, Emily thought about Tom's words. "You'll find more than wages here." She didn't fully understand yet, but she knew that tomorrow she would learn more, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Next morning, Emily woke before the sun had even touched the horizon. The sky was still a deep navy blue, dotted with faint stars, and the cool air smelled of dew and earth. "I would be so happy." She dressed quickly, pulling on her jeans and sturdy boots, and ran a comb through her hair. Her body ached slightly from the previous day's work, but the soreness was a reminder of her determination. Today would be her first full day of hands-on work, and she was determined not to disappoint Tom or herself. By the time she reached the barn, Tom was already inspecting the fences along the pasture. His boots crunched in the dirt, and his eyes scanned the horizon as if he could sense every movement of the livestock at once. The ranch hands were busy with their morning routine, moving between feeding troughs, mending fences, and checking on the horses. Emily felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She wanted to fit in, to prove that she could handle this life, even though everything about it was so different from the city she had left behind. "Morning, Emily," Tom said without turning. "Follow me. We'll start with the horses today. They need to be fed, groomed, and saddled for the morning ride." Emily nodded and hurried to catch up. Horses were intimidating to her at first, large, powerful creatures with minds of their own, but she remembered what Tom had said. Pay attention. Learn to understand them. She had learned early in life that listening and observing were more powerful than rushing in blindly, and she decided to apply the same approach here. Tom showed her how to brush down the horses, checking their hooves for stones or cracks. Emily followed his movements carefully, trying to mimic his motions. Her hands were rough from yesterday's work, but she welcomed the feeling. It made her feel useful. As she worked, one of the ranch hands, a young man named Ben, offered some advice. "You'll get used to their moods. They're smarter than people think," he said with a grin. "But don't let that scare you. They're gentle if you treat them right." The morning passed in a blur of brushing, feeding, and learning the subtle signals that told a horse was content, nervous, or upset. By mid-morning, she felt more confident, and even the biggest horse seemed less intimidating. After the horses were ready, Tom handed Emily a bucket and gestured toward the cattle pens. "Your next job is feeding the calves and checking on the fences," he said. "Watch for anything unusual. If something looks wrong, tell me immediately." Emily carried the bucket carefully, mindful of the animals around her. Some of the calves nuzzled her hands as she fed them, making soft, pitiful sounds that tugged at her heart. She realized that caring for these animals was not just about labor. It was about patience, observation, and empathy. The work was demanding, but it was also rewarding in a way that office jobs or city chores never had been. As the sun climbed higher, the heat began to settle over the fields. Emily wiped the sweat from her brow and adjusted her hat. The ranch hands moved efficiently around her, their actions almost rhythmic. She admired their skill but also felt determined to keep up. She refused to let fatigue slow her down. By late morning, Tom called everyone together near the barn. "There's a problem with the north fence," he said. "A section has been damaged in the storm last week. We need it repaired before the cows wander off. Emily, you'll help with this. Pay attention, and don't be afraid to ask questions." Emily followed him to the damaged fence. It looked intimidating, with several broken posts leaning awkwardly and wires sagging dangerously. She had never done serious repair work before, and for a moment doubt crept in. But she remembered how far she had come already, and she refused to let fear stop her. Picked up a hammer and nails, trying to follow Tom's instructions carefully. It wasn't easy. Her hands ached from gripping the tools, and her arms shook as she lifted heavy posts into place. Tom guided her, showing her how to balance the posts, tighten the wires, and check for stability. He didn't do the work for her. He let her struggle, correct mistakes, and learn through experience. Emily realized that this was part of the lesson. She wasn't just being told what to do. She was learning how to think, observe, and act. By midday, the fence was repaired and Emily was covered in dirt and sweat, but she felt a deep sense of pride. Tom clapped her shoulder lightly and said, "Not bad for your second day. You're learning faster than I expected." Emily smiled, grateful for the encouragement. She realized that this work demanded more than physical strength. It demanded patience, attention to detail, and perseverance. It wasn't just about labor. It was about understanding the land, the animals, and even herself. Lunch was a simple affair, taken under the shade of a large oak tree near the barn. The ranch hands brought sandwiches, fruit, and water, and everyone ate together. Emily listened as they shared stories about the ranch, their families, and past experiences. She felt welcomed, though still slightly on the outside. It was a different kind of camaraderie than she had known in the city, less about gossip or entertainment, more about trust, respect, and shared responsibility. After lunch, Tom handed Emily a new task, helping with the irrigation system in the fields. Pipes, valves, and hoses crisscrossed the land, delivering water to different sections of the pasture. Emily had never worked with irrigation before, and the instructions were complicated. She listened carefully as Tom explained the system, and she asked questions when she didn't understand. Slowly, she began to follow the steps, checking valves, turning levers, and observing how the water flowed through the fields. It was a challenging task, and she made mistakes. A valve she opened too early sent water spraying in the wrong direction, soaking her boots and jeans. She laughed at herself, feeling both frustrated and amused. Tom didn't scold her, he simply showed her how to correct the mistake, letting her try again. Emily realized that learning meant failing sometimes, and that failure didn't mean defeat. By late afternoon, the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields. Emily felt exhaustion in every muscle, but also a growing sense of accomplishment. She had fed animals, repaired fences, and learned new skills she never thought she could master. The ranch wasn't easy, but it was honest work, and that honesty gave her a sense of purpose she had never known in the city. As the day wound down, Tom approached her. "Emily, how do you feel?" he asked, his tone curious but not judgmental. "Tired but happy," she replied. "I feel proud. It's hard work, but I like it. I feel like I'm learning something real." "That's good. That's what I meant when I said you'll find more than wages here. This work teaches you things you can't learn anywhere else. Discipline, patience, respect for the land and the animals, and even respect for yourself. Keep at it, and you'll see what I mean." Emily smiled, understanding a little more now. She wasn't just earning money, she was discovering a new part of herself, a part that could handle challenges, learn from mistakes, and grow stronger every day. That evening, after the animals were settled and the tools cleaned, Emily walked back to the inn. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, the air filled with the quiet sounds of nature settling down for the night. Her body ached, but it was a good kind of ache, the kind that reminded her she had pushed herself, that she had achieved something tangible. She sat by the window looking out at the fields and the fading light. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. The ranch wasn't just a job. It was a place that demanded her best and gave back more than she had expected. Tom's words echoed in her mind. "You'll find more than wages here." She was beginning to understand. As she drifted to sleep, Emily felt a quiet excitement for the days to come. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps deeper connections with the people and animals on the ranch. She had come looking for work, but she was finding something far more valuable, a sense of purpose, a feeling of accomplishment, and the first taste of a life lived fully and honestly. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of heavy wind rattling the window of the inn. Rain streaked across the glass, and the low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. She pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders, feeling a mix of anticipation and unease. Today promised to be different from any other day she'd experienced so far on the ranch. Forecast had warned of a storm, and storms on the open fields could be dangerous. She dressed quickly, pulling on her waterproof jacket over her usual work clothes, and ate a simple breakfast of toast and eggs at the diner. When she arrived at the ranch, she noticed the dark clouds rolling over the hills and the wet ground turning to mud. Tom was already outside, moving between the animals and the hands with practiced efficiency. Despite the storm, he remained calm, his presence commanding confidence. Emily felt a small flicker of nervousness. She had faced hard work before, but she knew a storm could make everything unpredictable. "Morning, Emily," Tom said as she approached. His tone was steady, but she could sense the seriousness behind it. The storm's going to get worse. We need to make sure the animals are safe, the fences are secure, and no one gets hurt. You ready for this? Emily nodded, swallowing her fear. Yes, sir. I'll do my best.
Tom gave a faint smile.
Good. Follow me and stay close. Pay attention to what everyone is doing.
And remember, if something feels unsafe, tell me immediately.
Emily followed him to the pastures, where the livestock were beginning to sense the change in weather.
The cattle moved restlessly, lowing in concern as the wind picked up. The horses shied slightly, ears twitching, sensing the storm approaching. Emily felt her heart race, but she took a deep breath and reminded herself of the lessons she had learned so far. Patience, observation, and calm determination. She worked alongside Tom and the ranch hands, gently guiding the frightened animals through the muddy fields. Some of the calves resisted, slipping in the wet grass or refusing to move. Emily stayed patient, using a steady voice and soft gestures to coax them forward. The wind howled around them, and rain began to fall in sheets, soaking through her jacket. Her boots squelched in the mud, and her hands ached from gripping the animals and the gates, but she pressed on. We're safely in the barn. Tom directed Emily to help reinforce the fences along the northern field. The storm had loosened several posts, and if the cattle got out, it could lead to disaster. Emily grabbed the hammer and nails, just as she had learned, and set to work. The wind threatened to push her off balance, and the rain made the wood slippery, but she focused on each task, taking it one step at a time. "Keep going, Emily!" Tom called over the noise of the storm. "You're doing fine. Just pay attention to your footing and the tools." She nodded, forcing herself to concentrate despite the chaos around her. Dun-toned ass. The rain soaked her hair and dripped down her face, but she refused to stop. Every time a post wobbled or a wire snapped, she corrected it, remembering Tom's instructions and the patience he had shown her. The work was exhausting, both physically and mentally, but Emily felt a strange exhilaration. This was real responsibility, and she was rising to the challenge. As the storm intensified, a sudden loud crack of thunder made one of the horses bolt in fear. Emily reacted instinctively, grabbing the lead rope and speaking softly to calm it. The animal shivered violently, trying to pull away, but she held firm, keeping her voice steady and her hands gentle. Tom rushed over and helped steady the horse, patting her shoulder. "Good work, Emily. You kept your cool." That's what counts. In the city, emergencies had always made her panic, but here she discovered that staying calm and focused could make a real difference. She was learning to trust herself even in the face of fear. By midday, the storm showed no signs of letting up. The rain pounded down relentlessly, and the wind bent the trees, whipping branches against the ground. Emily's clothes were soaked, her muscles screamed in protest, and her hands were raw from gripping tools and ropes. Yet she continued to work alongside the ranch hands, repairing fences, securing gates, and making sure all the animals were safe. During a brief pause, she glanced at the fields beyond the barn. Water was pooling in low areas, and some of the fences were barely holding. She realized that even a small mistake could have major consequences. Her sense of responsibility grew heavier, but instead of discouraging her, it motivated her to keep going. She understood now that ranch work wasn't just about physical labor. It was about thinking ahead, observing carefully, and taking action when it mattered most. Around mid-afternoon, Tom called everyone together. "The storm is at its worst now," he said, shouting over the wind. "We need to check on the horses in the upper paddock. Some of them are spooked, and I don't want anyone hurt." Emily followed him, her boots sinking in the mud with each step. When they reached the paddock, she saw the horses huddled near the fence, eyes wide with fear. One of the larger horses, a chestnut mare, had pinned herself against the fence and refused to move. Emily's heart pounded, but she remembered everything she had learned, the calm voice, steady hands, and careful observation. She approached the mare slowly, speaking in soft, reassuring tones, and gently stroked her neck. The horse trembled, but eventually allowed Emily to lead her to a safer area. Tom watched silently, nodding once she had the horse secured. "You're handling this well, Emily. Storms test everyone, but you're staying focused. That's important." The hours passed slowly, each one filled with effort, attention, and the constant noise of the storm. Emily felt fatigue creeping in, but she refused to let it show. Every task completed was a victory. Every animal safe was proof that she was capable. She had come to the ranch looking for work, and now she realized that work was teaching her resilience, courage, and responsibility in ways she had never imagined. By late afternoon, the storm began to lose its intensity. The rain lessened to a drizzle, and the wind slowed. Mud clung to Emily's boots and pants. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she smelled of wet earth and sweat. Despite the discomfort, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride. She had faced the storm and its challenges, and she had not only survived but contributed to keeping the ranch safe. Tom gathered everyone near the barn as the last of the rain fell. "Good work today," he said, his voice carrying over the puddles and muddy ground. "This storm could have caused serious problems, but because everyone stayed calm, worked together, and paid attention, we made it through without injury or loss. Emily, you were especially steady today. I'm proud of how you handled yourself." Emily felt her cheeks flush with a mix of exhaustion and pride. Praise from Tom meant a lot. He rarely offered it lightly, and it carried weight. For the first time, she truly understood what he had meant when he said she would find more than wages on the ranch. Today had given her lessons in courage, patience, and self-confidence that no paycheck could ever buy. As the sun began to peek through the clouds, painting the fields in soft gold, Emily took a moment to breathe and reflect. She looked around at the ranch, muddy fences, soaked animals, and tired but determined ranch hands, and realized she had become part of this world, even if only a small part for now. And she had faced a real challenge, and she had grown stronger because of it. By evening, after the animals were fed, the tools cleaned, and the barn secured, Emily trudged back to the inn. Her clothes were dry enough to be comfortable, but the memory of the storm, the wind, the rain, the heavy responsibility lingered in her mind. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment, the kind that came from knowing she had faced fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion, and had come out capable and confident. Sitting by the window of the inn, she watched the sun set behind the hills, casting long shadows across the wet fields. The storm had passed, leaving the world refreshed and alive. Emily felt the same about herself. She had come to the ranch seeking work, yes, but she was finding something far more valuable: strength, resilience, and a growing belief in her own abilities. As she drifted to sleep that night, her body tired but her spirit uplifted, Emily knew that the ranch had changed her. The work was no longer just physical labor. It had become a journey of learning and growth. She was beginning to understand Tom's words. "You'll find more than wages here." Indeed, she had found lessons in courage, patience, and responsibility, lessons that would stay with her long after the storm had passed. The morning after the storm was calm and clear. The sky was a bright, cloudless blue, and the air smelled fresh and clean, carrying the faint scent of wet grass and earth. Emily stepped outside the inn and stretched, feeling the stiffness in her muscles from the day before. The storm had been exhausting, but it had also given her a strange sense of pride. She knew she was becoming stronger, both in body and in spirit. By the time she arrived at the ranch, Tom was already overseeing the morning chores. His presence was steady and reassuring, a reminder of the calm she had observed even during the storm. The ranch hands were moving efficiently, tending to the livestock, repairing fences, and checking equipment. Emily felt herself slipping into the rhythm of the ranch, learning not only the work but the unspoken rules of cooperation, patience, and respect. "Morning, Emily," Tom said, nodding as she approached. "Today we'll work on the orchard. There are some trees that need pruning, and the irrigation lines need checking. It's slower work than the fields, but just as important. Pay attention to the details." Emily followed him to the orchard, a quiet part of the ranch with rows of fruit trees. The ground was soft from yesterday's rain, and droplets clung to the leaves. She had never done pruning before, and she listened carefully as Tom showed her the right technique. She tried to mimic his movements, clipping small branches and inspecting each tree. It was delicate work, requiring patience and care, but she found herself enjoying it. The orchard was peaceful compared to the bustling pastures, and Emily appreciated the calm focus it demanded. As she worked, one of the ranch hands, Ben, came over with a smile. "You handled yourself really well during the storm," he said. "Not everyone keeps their head when things get messy like that." Emily smiled shyly. "It was scary, but I learned a lot."
Ben nodded.
"That's what the ranch does. You don't just learn to work, you learn about yourself." Emily thought about that. He was right. The ranch had already taught her lessons that went far beyond the physical work. Courage, patience, and perseverance. She realized that every day brought something new, and every challenge was an opportunity to grow. By midday, they finished pruning and moved on to checking the irrigation lines. Emily discovered that the system was more complicated than she had first thought, with valves, hoses, and pipes running in multiple directions. She followed Tom's instructions carefully, testing the water flow and repairing small leaks. Mistakes were inevitable, but Tom encouraged her to try again, reminding her that learning came through experience. Emily appreciated his guidance. It was firm but never harsh, allowing her to build confidence at her own pace. Lunch was taken under the shade of a large oak tree, and Emily joined the ranch hands at a wooden picnic table. They shared sandwiches, fruit, and stories about the ranch and their families. Emily listened eagerly, asking questions and laughing at their anecdotes. She felt a growing sense of belonging. For the first time in years, she felt part of a community, a group of people who worked hard, cared for each other, and respected the land they lived on. After lunch, Tom called Emily over. "I want you to learn something important today," he said. "We'll be working with the calves. You've fed them and guided them before, but today, I want you to learn how to observe their behavior and understand what they need." Emily followed him to the pasture where a group of young calves were playing near the fence. Tom showed her how to watch for signs of illness, stress, or discomfort, explaining the importance of noticing small details that could prevent problems later. Emily paid close attention, noticing the way one calf limped slightly and how another avoided certain patches of grass. She helped separate the weaker calves, guiding them to a safe, comfortable area and ensuring they had food and water. By the end of the afternoon, Emily was exhausted but fulfilled. She had learned a new skill, helped the animals, and gained a deeper understanding of the responsibility that came with working on the ranch. Tom approached her, a rare smile on his face. "You're improving every day," he said. "Not just in the work you do, but in how you think about it. That's what matters most." Emily felt a warmth in her chest. Praise from Tom meant more than words could express. She realized that she had come to the ranch looking for a job, but she was finding mentorship, guidance, and a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. Over the next few days, Emily continued to work closely with Tom and the ranch hands. She learned to ride horses with confidence, mend fences efficiently, and care for the animals with skill and compassion. But more importantly, she began to form bonds with the people around her. The ranch hands taught her stories of their lives, shared advice, and welcomed her as part of their team. Emily found herself laughing with them during breaks, sharing in small victories and even offering her own ideas for improving routines. One evening, after the work was done, Tom invited Emily to help him check on the irrigation system in a quieter section of the fields. As they walked, he spoke about his life on the ranch, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned. Emily listened intently, feeling a growing admiration for his wisdom and dedication. "You see, Emily," Tom said, "the ranch teaches more than work. That it teaches patience, respect, and understanding. You learn to see the world differently when you spend time here." Emily nodded. She understood what he meant. The ranch was teaching her about responsibility, care, and the value of hard work, but it was also teaching her about herself, her strengths, her limits, and her capacity to adapt and grow. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's confidence grew. She no longer felt intimidated by the physical labor or the long hours. She had learned to anticipate the needs of the animals, notice problems before they became serious, and work alongside others with respect and cooperation. She also began to enjoy the quiet moments, the early mornings when the sky was painted in soft pinks and oranges, the evenings when the sun dipped behind the hills, and the peaceful rhythm of life on the ranch. One afternoon, as Emily rested near the barn, Ben came over carrying a bucket of water. "You've come a long way," he said, smiling. "I remember when you first arrived. You were nervous and unsure. Now, look at you. You handle everything with confidence." Emily laughed softly. "I couldn't have done it without everyone here. You've all been so patient with me." Ben shrugged. "We all learn from each other. That's what makes the ranch strong. We support each other, and we grow together." Emily realized he was right. The ranch was more than a job or a place to earn money. It was a community, a family of people who relied on each other and the land. I would be so happy that she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to be part of it. As the sun began to set, Emily helped Tom lead the horses back to the stable and checked the fences one last time. The golden light of evening bathed the fields in warmth, and Emily felt a quiet satisfaction. She had worked hard, learned new skills, and formed bonds that made her feel connected in a way she had never experienced before. That night, sitting on the porch of the inn and watching the stars emerge over the fields, Emily reflected on her journey. She had arrived at the ranch seeking work, but she had found much more than wages. Discovered resilience, patience, and the strength to face challenges head-on. She had built friendships and found mentors who cared about her growth. And most importantly, she had discovered a sense of belonging, a feeling that she was part of something larger than herself. Emily realized that the lessons she was learning at the ranch would stay with her long after she left. The work, the challenges, and the bonds she had formed were shaping her into a stronger, more confident, and more thoughtful person. She felt a sense of pride and fulfillment that she had never known in the city, a feeling that no paycheck could ever provide. As she drifted off to sleep, Emily knew that the ranch had become a part of her life in a way she had never expected. She had come looking for work, and she had found purpose, connection, and a sense of home. She was no longer just a visitor or an outsider. She was part of the ranch family, and she was beginning to understand the true meaning of Tom's words. "You'll find more than wages here." The morning air was crisp and cool, carrying the faint scent of grass and earth. Emily woke before sunrise, as she had become accustomed to doing. The early hours had become her favorite part of the day. The world was quiet, the sky painted in soft shades of pink and gold, and the ranch seemed to breathe along with her. She dressed in her usual work clothes, pulled on her boots, and made her way to the barn. Today felt different somehow. She had grown comfortable here, but she also felt a sense of anticipation, as if she knew her journey at the ranch was reaching an important moment. Tom was already outside, inspecting the fences along the pasture. His movements were calm and deliberate, and his eyes carried the quiet strength of someone who had worked the land for decades. Emily approached him, and he gave her a nod of acknowledgement. "Morning, Emily," he said. "Ready for today?" She smiled. "Yes, sir." "I feel ready." Tom glanced toward the fields where the livestock moved steadily and then back at her. "You've done well these past few weeks," he said. "You've learned a lot, and you've grown stronger. Not just in work, but in character. Today I want you to take more responsibility, lead the morning chores, and make decisions where needed. I'll be nearby if you need guidance, but I want you to try it on your own."
Emily felt a mix of excitement and nervousness.
Leading the chores was a big responsibility, but she was ready to face it. She had come to the ranch seeking work, but she had found much more: confidence, skills, and a sense of purpose. Now was the moment to prove to herself how far she had come. She started with the horses, leading them from the pasture to the barn and ensuring they were fed and groomed. She remembered everything Tom had taught her: the careful brushing of their coats, checking their hooves, and observing their behavior for any signs of discomfort. The horses responded to her with calm acceptance, and Emily felt a sense of pride swell in her chest. She was not only doing the work, but she was doing it well. Next, she checked the fences in the northern pasture. Emily had repaired many fences before, but today she noticed small issues that others might have missed. A loose post, a sagging wire, a section weakened by the previous storm. She addressed each problem with care, using the tools and techniques she had learned. She realized that attention to detail was just as important as strength or speed, and she felt satisfaction in knowing she was protecting the livestock and the land. By late morning, Emily had finished her inspections and repairs. Tom joined her, watching as she completed the last task. "You've done well," he said. "I'm proud of your progress. Not just in the work itself, but in how you think and care for the ranch. That's what matters most here." Emily felt a warmth in her chest. She had worked hard for this, and hearing Tom's praise reinforced the sense of accomplishment she already felt. She realized that the ranch had become more than a job or a place to earn money. It had become a place where she could grow, learn, and contribute meaningfully. After lunch, Emily helped with the calves. She guided them to safe areas, checked their health, and ensured they had food and water. She noticed a young calf limping slightly and took extra care to make sure it was comfortable. Tom observed quietly from a distance, nodding occasionally as he watched her work. Emily felt a deep sense of responsibility, knowing that the care she provided had a real impact on the animal's well-being. Later, she joined the ranch hands in the orchard. Pruning trees and checking irrigation lines had become routine for her, but she now approached it with confidence and efficiency. She could see the growth in herself, not only in skill but in mindset. The ranch had taught her patience, observation, and persistence, the understanding that even small, careful actions mattered in the larger picture. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Tom called everyone together for a brief meeting. "You've all worked hard today," he said. "I want to thank you for your efforts. Emily, you've grown into a strong, capable member of this team. I hope you recognize the value of what you've learned here." Emily felt a sense of gratitude. She thought back to the day she had arrived, unsure of herself, nervous about whether she would be able to handle the work. She had come seeking wages, but she had found far more: experience, confidence, and a sense of belonging. She realized that the ranch had changed her in ways she hadn't anticipated. That evening, Emily walked to the edge of the fields, watching the sun set behind the hills. The sky was a brilliant mix of gold, orange, and soft purple, and the wind carried the scent of grass and earth. She felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. The city had been loud, chaotic, and demanding, but here, life was real, grounded, and rewarding. She felt connected to the land, the animals, and the people around her. As she reflected on the past weeks, Emily realized she had grown not only in skill, but in perspective. She had learned the value of hard work, the importance of patience, and the strength that came from facing challenges head-on, bonds that made her feel supported and valued. Most importantly, she had discovered a sense of purpose and identity. Emily knew she had a choice to make. She could return to the city, to the familiar routines and comfort of the life she had known, or she could stay on the ranch, continue to grow, and build a life that was meaningful, challenging, and fulfilling. She thought of the work, the lessons, the connections she had formed, and the pride she felt in her accomplishments. The decision became clear in her mind. The next morning, Emily approached Tom at the barn. He looked up from his work and smiled as she walked toward him. "Good morning, Emily. Ready for another day?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she said, smiling. "And I want to stay here. I want to continue learning and working on the ranch. I've found what I was looking for, and more." "I'm glad to hear that," he said. "You've proven yourself, and I think you'll continue to grow. The ranch will always challenge you, but it will also support you. You're part of this now." Emily felt a surge of happiness and pride. She had found a place where she belonged, where her work mattered, and where she could continue to grow. She realized that the ranch had given her far more than wages. It had given her purpose, confidence, and a sense of home. Over the following weeks, Emily settled fully into ranch life. She took on more responsibilities, helped train new hands, and continued learning every aspect of the operation. She had earned the respect of the ranch hands and Tom, and she had formed a bond with the land itself, a connection that grounded her and gave her a sense of fulfillment. She still remembered her first day, the nervousness, the uncertainty, and the fear of failing. But now, she had grown into someone capable, strong, and resilient. The ranch had taught her lessons that went far beyond work. It had taught her about patience, responsibility, empathy, and perseverance. She had discovered that true growth came from facing challenges, learning from mistakes, and embracing the support and wisdom of those around her. One evening, as Emily sat on the porch of the barn watching the sunset behind the hills, she reflected on her journey. She had come seeking work, money, and independence, but she had found far more: community, purpose, and self-discovery. The ranch had become her home, and she knew that she would continue to grow and thrive there. Emily realized that the true value of her time on the ranch was not measured in wages or material gain, but in the lessons she had learned and the person she had become. She had discovered strength she didn't know she had, built meaningful relationships, and found a sense of belonging that made every challenge worth it. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. She had come looking for work, but she had found a life full of meaning, growth, and connection. She was no longer the uncertain young woman who had arrived weeks ago. She was confident, capable, and ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that she had found her place in the world. The ranch, the people, and the lessons she had learned had become part of her, shaping her into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded. She smiled to herself, grateful for the journey, the challenges, and the growth she had experienced. Emily had come seeking wages, but she had found a life, and that was worth far more than she could have imagined.